Go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another small screen Star Wars. As always, I am Julian Musha. I'm joined, as always, or at least recently, by Rachel Wilkinson. How are you?
Oh, hi. I'm doing good. How are you?
Well, pretty good. I've been just clamoring. I've been literally dying to talk about this episode.
Me too.
No one in my house cares about this at all. So
That's why I'm here, literally.
Yeah, I watched it 3 times, including today because I rewatched it to take notes. And
I wanted to rewatch it today, but
listeners might know that I had taken notes last episode, and it was one loose leaf page. I just wanted you guys to see for the camera. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 loose leaf pages.
I bet you they're full of spelling mistakes.
Absolutely they are, because it wasn't written on a computer, so I didn't have anything to correct me. Anyway, we are streaming this live to Facebook, Twitter /Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch. You can follow us and subscribe to us at all those places or whichever one's your favorite. But definitely follow us on Twitter at Tower Babblecast. That's like my favorite place that people go to that I can talk to them. It's where I get all my insights about Star Wars. Basically, I have a subscribe to like Star Wars as a topic, I believe.
Okay. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either, and now it's way better because now all I just get is Star Wars tweets, and it's great.
Well, obviously I'm not good at Twitter, but you know that.
But you
just
did
asked you about hashtags.
Yeah, where they were invented.
I didn't know they were invented on Twitter because I don't really use Twitter, so I'm learning.
To be fair, Twitter is complicated, and the reason that hashtags were invented was because there was no like easy way to like find things and search for things, and kind of like
right.
So they invented hashtags to like stay on topic or like have you know what I mean? So
yeah, that makes sense.
It came out of how complex it was. So it's fair if someone's like, I don't really get it. It's like, well, you're with everyone else. No one really gets it. So
yeah. Fair enough. So I shouldn't feel alone.
So you didn't rewatch it today. You've only watched it once.
No, I watched it. No, I've watched it twice.
Okay.
I rewatched it yesterday, but I didn't rewatch it today and take notes, which is what I was going to do. But
because
just gonna
I
have to go by the notes
time.
in my head. Yeah,
because
pretty much.
You felt like, oh man, Julian, he had all these notes prepared. You felt so ashamed, obviously, that you didn't have any of those same notes. So you went and you decided you were going to do the same. But now look at this. I once again showed you up, and I don't care if you'd taken notes. I would have had more.
See, I did actually have some notes last week, but they were irrelevant to the episode, so it didn't matter.
They're like your shopping list, or
no, because I read the Son of Dathomir comic before or graphic novel before the episode because I thought maybe there was going to be some reference to it, but there was no.
Good thing you read
it, so it literally didn't matter.
I haven't read it, and I think there's a lot more references to that stuff in this episode. So you can give us some insights and just get those notes back up, pull them up. I want to hear some rustling paper.
Yeah, sure.
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So what are we doing here today? We are going to be covering Season 7, Episode 9 of Star Wars The Clone Wars, titled Old Friends Not Forgotten. I like the title. Haven't always liked the titles this season, but this one I like. And we're going to be spoiling everything from this season, everything from Revenge of the Sith and the prequel era. Basically, everything Star Wars is up for grabs. So if you don't want to be spoiled on anything, tune out now, and then watch all of Star Wars and then come back.
Yeah.
That's really my top. That's
pretty much
my recommendation. Yeah, and if you're watching a show called Small Screen Star Wars, I imagine you have a kind of like a pretty good idea of kind of what we're talking about and the tangential stuff. To be fair, though, it is pretty dense, a lot, especially the stuff we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to do our best to kind of break it all down so it's really easy to kind of digest and understand. Really unpack it, which is like the way we like to call it, or we have called it for a long time. Unpacking the episode. So where does this all start? Let's start at the very, 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 very beginning and all the way back in 1977, because seriously.
We're going real far back.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm going real far back because this episode starts with a green Lucasfilm Limited title card. And that, the only time that as far as I understand, the only time that has ever been shown or seen was on the original 1977 Star Wars, that the very first, the thing that started it all.
Right.
There's a lot of kind of interesting things that I've heard about this season. One of the more interesting things is there was a quote from Sam Witwer, who voices Darth Maul, and he said that George Lucas, everyone's familiar with George Lucas, invented Star Wars. He's been calling Dave Filoni and giving him like nice little, I think the exact line was nice little comments.
Oh, okay.
About the episodes that, as they've been airing.
Yeah.
We know, and I think it's nice in a couple reasons, because this is the last, the Clone Wars is the last piece of Star Wars material that he was officially working on, right? Not as like a consultant or like visiting the set or whatever. He was involved from the very beginning with the creation of the show Star Wars: The Clone Wars. When the Clone Wars wraps up and we move on to something new and different, that will be the end of George Lucas's like touch or era in Star Wars, right? His direct influence, because the prequels are his baby, right? That's all of his dense storytelling and world building. It exists kind of maybe sometimes to a fault in the Clone War, the Clone Wars and the prequels as a whole. And Dave Filoni's kind of carried that torch forward. So I think there's an obvious direct line to say, hey, this is an important story. And to do that, to show you how important it is, we're gonna pull up this title card, and just to kind of set the scene. And it totally works, because I was like, as soon as that happened, I was like, what?
Me too. It was so good. I was super excited as soon as I saw that. It almost made me like took a second for me to realize I was actually still watching. I'm like, wait, did I like click on the wrong?
Right. Like
for a second, I was like, oh, is that the right episode? Did I? And then I was like, oh, okay, no, never mind. This is where I want to be. But
then you might have been thrown off again, because the next thing you hear is the Star Wars Fanfare, which is the main Star Wars theme that everyone's aware of. It opens every movie, or all the saga movies, and has never opened any of the Clone Wars episodes.
No.
In fact, none of the official Star Wars music in its entirety or as a whole, without just taking little bits and pieces and to kind of like frame things up, has ever been used in Star Wars: The Clone Wars. There's been bits of the Imperial theme that were once used, I think, way back in the arc with the brother and the sister and the father.
You definitely hear little bits of certain themes, but
never the actual music, which is really funny, because we've been talking about the scores for each of these episodes kind of more than we thought we would going into this. And then this happens, you're like, whoa, okay, now this is really serious. We went from like, that's a really cool nod to the original movie. Now it's like, holy crap, we're going not only with that little nod, but we're also going to use the actual music, and they use the actual music through the entire episode, which is amazing.
It made me feel like it just like it set the episode up to be so much better than the other ones.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going a different direction with that, but I agree that it is better than the rest, and I'll ask you what your overall thoughts are in a second once I get through this little intro bit.
For sure.
And I guess the other part is the Star Wars, the Clone Wars logos in red. That's never been done before. The only other time logos have been done in red was in the marketing for Return of the Jedi. That was marketed with a red logo. I also believe that The Last Jedi was also marketed with a red logo. But I think maybe the red is more in reference to Maul and that stuff.
That's what I think too. Yeah.
But I think it certainly carries weight because it is different,
Mm-hmm.
So
Definitely.
what did you think of this episode as a whole? And then we can dive into it.
I absolutely loved every single second of this episode. It was so good. It was, Kate, is it just me, or to me, it looked better. All the animation looked like it had leveled up a bit.
A very, very, very pretty episode. And I was thinking about that, like some of the lighting effects and like the smoke and mist effects that they use, especially on that bridge scene early on, look really, really, really good.
I just felt like all the scenes had more like physical depth to them too. Like to me, they just looked sharper. It looked better. I don't know. Maybe it's just because it had such a build up, and maybe I'm wrong, but it just seemed like maybe those were made Yeah, maybe those were made more recently than the other ones, but
Well, we know that some of them were made from old animatics, right?
yeah,
The first one was an older one, so there might be some like older looks kind of going through that. The most recent arc
maybe, but
um, seemed like the sisters and stuff that looked pretty good too. I thought that those looked pretty great. And I remember thinking that distinctly, like, wow, what the show's gone a long way since it first started. But
oh, for sure, yeah.
this episode looks so good, and I think at the end of all this, with these last 4 episodes are put together, it'll make for a really nice, tight kind of like prequel movie
Right.
to the Revenge of the Sith, prequel / tangential film.
Hmm.
And it would be kind of cool if you have like because Clone Wars started with a movie, right? We had an animated movie to start it, and it came to theaters and everything. It would be pretty cool to end the Clone Wars with a film. And yeah, they may break it up into 4 episodes for this, but maybe they'll release it in some sort of capacity as one full story because it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like I said, I loved it all. So I'm
Every
excited to
single
break.
second. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to just literally break everything down now. So
I'm with you because I'm
yeah,
with you with literally every single second from the very first frame with the green Lucasfilm Limited to the credits with the sound of the lightsabers over top of it
yeah.
is basically perfect. This is as good of Star Wars as you're going to get. This might be, if it's not the best episode of the Clone Wars, it's right up there in the top 5
Oh,
probably.
for sure.
Although
It gave me goosebumps and made me cry. So
ooh,
that's pretty hard to do. So
that is impressive.
yeah.
Here's this is a tweet from Gianni Aliotti. He's the supervisor at Lucasfilm for Clone Wars lighting and effects. And so his tweet from 6 hours ago is, well, it's Monday, 5 days until the best Clone Wars episode you've ever seen. Feel free to hold me to that. So maybe it gets better
Ooh.
next week.
Okay.
But hard to imagine. There won't be any Anakin or Obi-Wan. And this is another thing to mention.
Right.
This is the last Anakin and Obi-Wan we'll probably ever see on the Clone Wars was
Yeah.
this episode because they're off doing their Revenge of the Sith thing now. And,
Yeah.
we know how that ends. So
Yeah. Yeah.
and we know that Ahsoka doesn't appear in that movie. So
That's why it's gonna like it feels like to me it's gonna be so hard to top this episode because it had all my favorite things in it. So
well, we'll see. We haven't got to Order 66 yet, and I
That's
have
true.
to imagine that's going to be pretty freaking cool. So, okay, so, and I guess this is maybe important to note that all of Revenge of the Sith, because this is happening, concurrently, as of halfway through this episode, when they say, "Hey, we're jumping to hyperspace. We'll be there in an hour," right?
yeah.
At that moment, we're an hour away from the start of Revenge of the Sith, right? So, and presumably they took approximately an hour to divide up the troops and jump to Mandalore. So the beginning of Mandalore, the Siege of Mandalore, and the beginning of Revenge of the Sith almost line up. It's hard to say exactly, to the minute, obviously.
Right.
But the events, and I've read a bunch of this on Twitter, the events of Revenge of the Sith take place over about 15 days. So there's
Okay.
about that much time. I don't know how much further we're going to go past Revenge of the Sith or into Revenge of the Sith. We know for sure at least to Order 66, which is almost to the end. So
Yeah.
that'll be interesting at least. And the craziest part is that we know that Ahsoka doesn't find out about any of this stuff until much, much later, which is almost worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Okay, so let's get into this scene by scene. So let's start with the prologue because even this has some really, 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 really great stuff in it. And it gave me chills when I saw it, which is, so it starts with the narrated prologue, and it's basically, I wish I could read it out, but I don't have it in front of me. But it's essentially saying the Jedi Council has sent their most, established generals to the Outer Rim because there's been a large offensive that's been undertaken by the Separatists at the Outer Rim, right? So
Right.
far from the core worlds, I think they say. So we see, and it breaks my heart because we see
I know.
Plo Koon. We see Plo
Yeah.
Koon, and he is on, I did the research for this, he is on Cato Nemoidia, right? Okay. And he is flying with Captain Jag. That's the name of the clone. I always like to reference the clone names as much as I can. So Captain Jag, that's his captain. Okay.
Right.
So he's flying with Captain Jag, who's ultimately who kills him. Then we have on Felucia, we have Ayla Secura, And she's with the 327th Star Corps. That's the name of their corps, with Commander Bly. And he's the guy who has like the little visor thing and the shoulder thing. So, and it looks almost one for one like the shots out of Revenge of the Sith. Like it does. It's like you guys couldn't have done this a little bit differently. You had to go there. Interesting.
Oh, they went straight for like the heartstrings there. I know.
Right for the jugular. It's unbelievable. Jugular, So I thought that's really cool. And they're like, oh, and it really kind of shines some light on what Sidious's plan was, which is this: hey, I'm going to order the Separatists to initiate a large offensive at the Outer Rim, far from Coruscant and the core worlds, because when shit goes down, I don't want those Jedi around, right? Because ultimately, when Mace Windu goes to arrest Palpatine, he's got some like B-tier Jedi with him. No offense to the Jedi.
Yeah, no, it's it's true. He doesn't have much with him other than what? Oh, yeah, because even. Well, I guess we'll get to it, but
yeah, exactly.
Because they bring up Shaak Ti even, where he's like, oh, like Shaak Ti's dealing with that, but we lost communications. It's like, fuck. Like,
and we don't know about Shaak. And like the thing is, so there's a whole animated movie about what happens with Shaak Ti, which is pretty cool. That's no longer canon, but was like the thing that was Clone Wars before Clone Wars. So if you search Star Wars Clone Wars, right, that's the animated series. This is the Clone Wars. They made a very distinct in there to make it different.
Super distinct.
It's a very cool animated series. I would recommend it. It's very like well animated. It's got like a Samurai Jack look to it. Super cool. Definitely check that out. But no longer canon. But it tells the story of how Shaak Ti is like protecting the Palpatine the whole time. There's also two scenes that are deleted for Revenge of the Sith. One of Shaak Ti being killed by Grievous, and one of Shaak Ti being killed by Anakin. So we don't know for sure what the canon answer is. I think it's technically Grievous kills her. But we don't know.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Yeah, I don't think anyone knows, but that is one of those things that's kind of up in the air because she has like 3 separate deaths.
Yeah.
So,
someone knows. Someone at Lucasfilm knows.
Somebody somewhere knows. Yeah.
Just like George knows the species that Yoda is, but he's not telling, or at least he's only telling certain people. So someone knows. I'm sure that Dave Filoni knows, but he's probably not gonna reveal that information to us, or maybe he will. Who knows how much information they're gonna give us? So. That prologue I thought was just like, oh, so good. It instantly got me in the right mindset and like the right like frame of mind for like, okay, this is like we're this close to the end of this whole thing, right? We're this close. And so it takes us to this. I don't even remember. I was so distracted by reading and writing down the other stuff that I didn't remember the name of the planet that Anakin and Obi-Wan are on. Doesn't really matter. They're only there for a little bit. It doesn't matter.
It's basically they're just at the very end of their battles there. So
they're wrapping up a battle, and it's on a bridge that looks very much like the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yes, it does. Okay, yeah, I noticed that too.
I heard some people say that it's like maybe it's a reference to Lucasfilm that's like in San Francisco, and that's where the Golden Gate Bridge is. But I don't necessarily buy that. I feel like that's it could be any suspension bridge is going to look pretty similar.
Yeah, that's true.
So take that, maybe if you want that to exist, you want them to be calling out to Lucasfilm, then sure. I mean, why not? But I don't necessarily know if that's what's going on there. So they're on this bridge, and Cody and the 212th are there, and they're kind of getting pinned down by this, brigade of droids. There's a whole bunch. There's like the octo droids, and there's all different types are there.
Spider walkers. And
so many. So all the coolest ones. And and then Cody's like, go get to cover. It all looks really good and really cool. And then there's this like missile that comes in at like right at Cody. It's gonna hit him like right in the chest. But then Obi-Wan jumps in and slices it in half, and it's like this really cool. Again, the smoke and like translucent effects are really cool here, and you get that scene that you haven't seen from the trailer of what I thought was him on a speeder bike because of the way he's holding his arms, but is actually him having sliced through a missile. So really cool look. And then Obi-Wan and Cody's like, well, we can't get to him because the tactical droid is out of sight, so we don't know, we're kind of getting stuck here, right?
Yeah.
And then Anakin shows up, and this isn't my favorite scene out of the whole. This might be my least favorite scene This
I liked
particular
it.
moment. You liked him when he's like
I
casually
liked it.
standing there, dodging blaster bolts and saying, "Come on, there's only like 1,000 droids over there."
It's just because I love like Anakin and Obi-Wan banter. I love it. Like it's one of my favorite parts of the Clone Wars is getting to see those interactions between Anakin and Obi-Wan and how I don't know, how they're always basically fighting, but kind of jokingly fighting. So,
Well, that's fair. I
but
also enjoy their banter. I just thought this was funny.
yeah,
It's like I just like when the war stuff is taken more seriously, and it's like so like they're
no fair.
they're like hiding for cover, and like he's like, "Whoa, there's only 1,000 droids over there." Like that's not a small number, and they're clearly getting held back. Although Anakin has got a whole plan, right? So he's like, and it is pretty funny how he's like, okay, you're right. I best not. I've learned to not argue with you. What's the plan? He's like, okay, stay here.
Yeah. Well, I liked it too because Anakin walks up and he's like, "Yeah, well, our battle is over, so I figured I'd come help you with yours."
Yeah.
Like,
So that's fun.
did it? I just want to go back a little bit.
Yeah.
Did it gut you a little bit when Obi-Wan saved Cody's life? Because in like whatever, a couple days later, Cody's gonna turn and try and fucking kill him.
Yeah, because like the scene where he hands him back his lightsaber and then immediately tries to kill him is
True,
already
yeah.
bad enough, So it's like
I know. I
doesn't
just
really
felt like it was
doesn't really add anything.
that little bit of a dig where you see Obi-Wan save, Cody's life that like one last time, where it's just,
That's a good
there's
point.
so many little things, but yeah.
And we're all about pointing out the little things, and I like that you pointed out because I didn't really think about that. But that's a great point because I think later on there's more like they're more overt about the specific calls to the clones and their loyalty's everything.
Like I said, this whole episode was just wrenching my heart every 2 seconds. So
So we cut to Anakin. He's walking it onto the bridge, and I like that we got a chance to get a little bit more dumb lines from the droids. He's like,
I know.
He's like, surrendering. Well, that's a relief.
Yeah.
And they're like, go get the tactical droid, and then they go and they bring the tactical droid. I was like, it's a trap, you idiot.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, you have R2 with his magnetic feet, and he's like using his little like periscope thing, and it's very fun. And actually, the music here is from Return of the Jedi, and it's the music that plays when they're at the sail barge, and they're cutting to everyone's different faces right before they like do their whole little plan, right? And before R2 shoots his lightsaber out, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of idea there, right? Because he's like they're waiting for R2 to give the signal, and then they can go. Right. And I love that it comes to he goes back on the night and he's like, R2, can we go yet? And he's like, okay, just a little bit longer. Let me tell the boys. He's like, just hold on a little bit longer. He's like, all right, aye, sir.
They're all just
so
like groaning.
Grumbling. Yeah,
You can see
not
them
happy
all
about
like
it.
clinging to the bottom of the bridge.
I wouldn't handle that well, being underneath the bridge like that.
Well, I love just Anakin like talking about surrendering, and he's not even like good at acting. He's like, yeah, and I surrender because your forces are so
overwhelming.
Great. Like overwhelming. Yeah, he's just like you could so tell that he's stalling, but
you fought valiantly, right?
Yeah. But he finally able to, to get that tactical droid to show his face, right? That's what he wants.
Yep. So and that's what happened, and then he does a force pull, cuts his head off, which is really cool. And then and then Rex and the rest of the 501st launch their attack. Right, and it's clones with jetpacks, which we see a lot of in this episode, and
love it.
They're just blowing shit up. We get the I think the rebellion theme, I think is what it's called. I don't know for sure. I feel like I call it that a lot. It's the dun 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 dun, that stuff. Love that. It's always,
I think so. That's what I would call it. Sure.
I mean, it has a name. I just don't know what it is.
I think it's okay to get a few of the names of the scores wrong. I think we can pass on that.
Okay, fair enough. Anyway, so that's really fun getting to hear that music as well. Always like when that happens. There's a nod to it at the Battle of Scarif as well in Rogue One that I like. Basically, anytime that music's used, I'm a fan of it. So that's really fun. Everything's exploding. And then Obi-Wan gets to say, yes, Cody, you get to go join the fun, kind of like a kid waiting to go play. It's very cute.
So cute.
So at that point, then Anakin and Obi-Wan have like a brief little like chat. And then they get a call from one of their ships that they got a call. It was on the fulcrum. This is really
Yeah.
interesting. This is where things start really to fall into place, right? So
Yeah.
it was on a secure line.
It's
And the
like
code name
Anakin's
fulcrum.
secure line kind of thing that he uses. Yeah.
Yeah.
That he's
Um,
basically called Fulcrum. Yeah.
which so
Which is cool because they haven't told us that before, that that's kind of where that name came from, that it was like
yeah.
a secure line that Anakin used during the Clone Wars, which is, I thought that was pretty cool.
I like that too, but except when you start to think about how later, when she's using it during the whole Imperial era, if we're
Right.
using Anakin's old kind of signal or whatever, his codes, you think he would know. Like
Right.
it's not
But I
that
don't know if he
secretive to him, and
knows.
she doesn't know that he would know or need to worry. Like she
Well,
assumed he
I
was
mean,
dead or whatever.
she assumes he's dead or
Exactly.
whatever. But
So
also, I don't know if like there's any point in Rebels where like Vader knows that it's Fulcrum. I don't know if he ever gets
he
told.
doesn't,
Or
but
does
like
he?
if those same codes are being used, he would think he would notice.
Right.
Anyway,
I don't think necessarily in that time that they're using like the same frequency to like communicate. I think she just it adopts that name.
right.
Like
Okay.
uses the same name.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. So anyway, so we
It is cool.
and they're like, oh, maybe the siege at Alderaan is taking a turn for the worst, and that's a reference. And they say Saw Gerrera's name, who we've seen now in several incarnations in the video game,
Right.
in Clone Wars,
Well,
as
because
well as in
yeah,
Rogue
that's who
One.
Anakin assumes the Fulcrum message is coming from, or
Right.
like on that line. He
Right.
assumes it's Saul.
And they're like, well, you better take this call back on the ship. Like, oh, interesting. And then
Mm-hmm.
we cut to the ship, and he's like, okay, what did you, Admiral? What was so important that you need to call me back? And then it's like his jaw drops to the floor,
Right.
which I like that line reading as well. So we get a call from Ahsoka, and they go. Anakin's like thinking about. He's like, well, where are you? Like, what's going on? Like, where have you been?
Oh, right.
And,
So many questions. Yeah.
and Ahsoka's like, straight to business. Like, we can catch up later.
Yeah. She's like, we don't have time for this. Like,
right.
she's, yeah.
And so she's like Lady Bo-Katan and I. She like recaps the whole thing we already know. They that Maul is on Mandalore, and that they need their help. So they cut to the next scene, and her ship is landing. And we get the Jedi theme as she walks off the ship,
Yeah.
which is really nice, because she may not be an official Jedi, but in our hearts, she's a Jedi.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. This part brought a tear to my eye.
Oh, it's so good.
R2?
R2's
I know.
like a puppy, like right straight.
I know,
out
that's what I
first.
thought too.
Yeah.
He's like you can see him wiggle back and forth, and he just shoots right for her,
Yeah.
and it's just like, oh, it's so cute.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, it was
You
by
gotta
far
love that.
one of my favorite moments of the whole episode.
And it's in parallel to the first time we ever see Ahsoka, which is she's coming off a ship like that in front of Obi-Wan and Anakin for the first time. So that's kind of a nice little parallel there as the first and last time that'll happen.
Right.
Yeah,
that's true.
Okay, and then again, he's like, Anakin's like, it's so good to see you, yada yada yada. But hold on, before I even get to that, there's this whole line which I think is important, which
Very
is
important.
Anakin and Obi-Wan talking about how he's like, Anakin, it all makes sense now. He's like trying to like make sense of it all in his head. He's like, if she hadn't left the Order, she wouldn't have been where she needed to be for
Right.
this. Like he's trying to like make sense of it all.
Yeah, he's trying to rationalize it
Yeah.
and make himself feel better as to why she left.
And Obi-Wan's like, well, I mean, that's one way of looking at it. And Obi-Wan's like, or Anakin's like, that's the only way of looking at it. And everyone's like, most people thinking or who are watching are like, that sounds very, sounds like an absolute.
That does sound like an absolute. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I just like this. There's a lot of stuff between Anakin and Obi-Wan that's like very important. I feel like that sets up stuff for even Revenge of the Sith. That
Oh,
I think is
definitely.
important. Yeah.
There's so many little moments. Yeah. Especially coming up to it's
So that's one of them, and then we cut to a little bit later, and Ahsoka's like, "We don't have time to talk. We'll have to catch up later." And it's so cold. Oh, it was like I got shivers just thinking about how cold that shoulder was that she just gave him. And this is a little bit later on, but Ahsoka holds a grudge so hard against Obi-Wan, it is unbelievable.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, because she can tell it's so frustrating, right? Where she's just like, I'm so tired of this like political bullshit. Like, it's just like, we need help.
Right.
just come do it.
Yeah,
Like,
and it was the same shit that happened when she was on trial too. So
exactly,
she's like,
exactly.
fuck this.
So
Yeah.
she's so tired of it, and so like, yeah,
It's
basically tired of the politics.
It's Obi-Wan's biggest fault.
Yeah.
Basically. He's very loyal, but he's almost too loyal to the Jedi Council.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ahsoka's right to business, and they kind of go to the. I'm on to my second page now, turning the page. Ahsoka and Bo-Katan recap them. Maul is on the Mandalorian city of Sundari, which I don't know if is the capital or not, which I believe we've been to before. And maybe you can give some background on, because you've read the Son of Dathomir comic. So where was Maul between the last time we saw him when he was captured by Sidious, right? And now, what's happened?
So basically what happens with that whole arc is, and as Star Wars loves to do, he's being held in like a secret prison that not many people know about.
Classic.
Yeah.
Why didn't he just kill him? It seems like weird that Palpatine wouldn't just kill him,
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember why. I think it's because I'm the worst. This is where my notes would have came in handy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, well, Sidious, he's just kind of weird like that, where he's just kind of, he likes to play both sides all the time, where he's constantly being like, okay, is this an asset or is this something I need to get rid of? Like, I need to see what's going to work best for me. So I think that's why he holds on to Maul, because he wants to figure out like who he has working under him, how he got that power, and like how much he needs to be worried about it. Or is like, okay, like, should I just keep Maul and get rid of Dooku? Like, who's going to be better for me here?
Oh, okay.
But basically immediately Maul gets broken out of that prison by Gar Saxon.
Not a very secret prison.
Yeah, they follow him there and they blow a bunch of shit up, and like, Dooku fails from, keeping Maul safe, or not safe, but
from being hidden or whatever,
because he's being held on like level 7, and then the droids alert him that it's like, oh, there's been a break-in on level 3, and he's like, okay, well, send droids there, but then also send them to level 7 because that's what he knows. But yeah, Maul basically gets broken out immediately. And apparently that's the first time we actually see Gar Saxon, like timeline-wise. Like, obviously we see him in Rebels, but yeah, he's the one that breaks him out there. And then I'm trying to think.
So was he just always around during that like whole Clone Wars era stuff when Obi-Wan was there? And when Duchess Satine was killed, but we didn't know he was there? Is that the understanding?
Basically, yeah, he's running Death Watch for the most part, or he's a large part of Death Watch.
Right, because they splinter, right? That's the...
Yeah.
They like...
Because, well, so is Bo-Katan, right? But then they splinter off, and they're called something owls, like shadow owls or night owls or something like that.
Weird, but yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, they basically get Maul, save him, and there's a whole bunch of shit about... It's all about like Mother Talzin and Dathomir and all that. So I don't know if anybody really cares about this at this point. It doesn't really matter. But that's part of it too, because Sidious is still pissed that Mother Talzin isn't fully dead yet. So he wants Maul to basically lead them to Talzin so that they can kill her.
Okay.
And Maul kind of... It's hard to explain because Talzin isn't actually like... She's not a physical being anymore.
She's like
she's
a Force ghost, essentially.
Kind of. So she's sort of residing inside Maul. It's basically this whole big story arc. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, she gets killed by Dooku and Sidious and Grievous, because they all end up on Dathomir. And
oh wow, okay.
Yeah, because Maul has Dooku at some point. Like, it doesn't really matter. You find out that Maul is the son of Mother Talzin, like her actual son.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you find out that, and then you find out that Sidious basically stole him from her. She didn't give him as a gift, as Sidious tried to say before. So that's why she has such a strong like vengeance towards like Sidious and Dooku.
Yeah,
is because they stole her son.
Stole my son too. Yeah.
Yeah, turned him into a Sith, and like, yeah. So yeah, that's that whole arc, and it doesn't really explain like him getting back with like the Pikes or any of that. I don't think it really matters.
He uses his abilities to take over some sort of crime syndicate, something.
Yeah.
How does he get back to Mandalore? How does that whole thing happen?
They don't show you.
Oh, okay.
They show you the last thing you see is the Mandalorians are with him on Dathomir, and they're dragging him back onto the ship as the other three are, Force lightning versus Daka's witch powers, like killing her with lightning versus So as she's dying, like they're pulling Maul. He's fighting them back onto the ship. The Mandalorians are, and that's the last. Like that's how
and
the
then
comic
presumably
ends.
take him back. Okay, and that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So that's basically how that arc ends and how he's back with the Mandalorians.
Okay, cool. Good to know. So fast forward to now, and Obi-Wan is now hesitant. He's like, I'll have to advise the Jedi Council of this development. And Bo is like really quick. She's like, no, we don't have time. By the way, I just love everything that, what's her name? The actress who's playing Bo-Katan.
Katie
Sackhoff.
Yeah.
Everything she's doing with Bo-Katan, next level shit. Like
so
she's
good.
so quiet in certain moments, like when she's talking to what the heck is his name? I have it written down here somewhere, but essentially the Prime Minister, whatever his name is, Prime Minister Almec. When she's talking to Almec on the ship, and she's like, we know you're Maul's puppet, and we're coming for you. And it's so
she's
quiet
just so
and
sinister,
like so intense. It's so
you can just
cool.
Feel the hatred in her voice too. Like she's just like, it's so good. She does that voice acting so well. It's and that dig she throws at Obi-Wan is like
right. That is a low blow, right? And it was very effective. Like she's like, we don't have time, and then she's like, I knew this was a waste of time. Let's get the hell out of here. But and there's this whole thing where she's like, and you said this, like this low blow is like, I thought my sister meant something to you, and Obi-Wan's like, she did, and she still does. And there's this glance. Anakin gives Obi-Wan like a little side eye look, that is just like, oh really? You had like feelings for somebody. Interesting.
Okay. See, that's what you picked up for
right.
it. I interpreted that different. Because right when they pan to Anakin is right after Obi-Wan says, like, he's like, I do, like I did, and I still do. But he's like, but I'm not going to let my feelings cloud my judgment. And then it pans over to Anakin and he side eyes him, but it's kind of like because then Anakin, that's exactly what Anakin does is he lets his feelings cloud his judgment and then turns to the dark side. So I kind of picked it up as a little bit of a,
So I think it's
an homage to that.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely that too. I don't think it's any one thing, but it's definitely like, hey, interesting that you have this. You kind of had a similar thing, but you chose to go about it this way, right?
Right.
I'm not gonna let my emotions cloud my judgment. Or Anakin going through something very similar right now, but is going to go about it in an entirely different way.
Yeah. But it's just kind of that little extra, like, makes you think about Anakin's character a little bit more, and him being like, oh, like. So you had these connections, but you were able to not, but let that cloud your judgment. But whereas, he's got that internal fight going on right now.
Well, Anakin's particularly bad at handling his emotions, as we know.
Right.
I just think it's really interesting how much more depth Anakin gets as a character.
So much more.
In just this one episode almost than we get for almost the entire prequel trilogy of films. It's pretty sad almost. And it's not maybe even really the fault of who played him. It was
Hayden Christensen.
It was his birthday yesterday, by the way. Hayden Christensen's birthday.
Yeah, it's not his fault. It's definitely not his fault.
It's not entirely his fault. It's still partly his fault because there's some of those line readings are not great, and he was directed probably fairly poorly and stuff like that. So we're not going to hold it entirely against him. That being said, there's some really good work done by Matt Lanter here to kind of really get to give Anakin a lot more emotion and a lot more depth, and it totally pays off. If I can't wait to go watch Revenge of the Sith again. I haven't watched it in a long time, but at the end of this 4-part, I'm going to rewatch all 4 parts and then go right into Revenge of the Sith, and then I'm going to report back on how that works, because I think it's going to be a really nice tandem piece.
Yeah, I think it's going to be so good. I can't wait.
Yeah. So, okay, where are we? So next thing we have Anakin and Ahsoka. They're walking down the hallway. They're on the Venator Star Destroyer, and they're getting saluted by some clones. This is such a great moment too. It's such a like a subtle, cool little thing to do, which is like just have them salute and just say "Commander," and then have this whole conversation about how they shouldn't be doing that anymore. I'm not a part of the Order, and Anakin's like, no, it doesn't matter. It's a sign of respect. They know what you've done for them, and we know what they've done for them, which is a really nice callback. It's like, hey, audience, through exposition, we're gonna have this thing make sense in the conversation itself, but also have you think about all the things that she's done for Rex and for Cody and for all these other clones over the years, right? And that means something, that these are people and that they have emotions and they have feelings.
Oh, for sure.
And again, just to make you like the clones a little bit more just before they turn on everything.
Yeah, just to tug on those heartstrings again and make you feel like crying. But
the line specifically, and it's really on the nose, but I think so I'll give it a pass. It's just the loyalty means everything to the clones, right?
Yeah.
Is really heartbreaking because, and ultimately what I'm most curious about, and this is one of the things that I thought was such a shame that the show got canceled when it was, because what I was so curious of would be what's specifically Rex's reaction to Order 66.
I know.
But then, which we get a little bit of his understanding of it and kind of what he went through in Rebels. But at the time, what his thoughts are, and when was his chip removed? If it was removed, how does that all work? But then,
I know. I'm so excited to learn about that a little bit more and see how that turns out with him and Ahsoka. But
right. And then also, what about what is there? Maybe is there other clones? We know that there's at least Wolf and Gregor, right? But there's, are there other clones that have regret? Did they was there suicides among the ranks? Like these types of things, like when they think about what they've done, like what? I'm not saying that Disney Plus is going to show clones killing themselves, but these are the kind of things that I want to know.
I don't think so, because I think it's like once that order goes, it just it immediately it's like a switch in them where it's like, no, Jedi are enemies now. So I don't think they have any remorse. I don't think they switch back afterwards.
I don't know. I mean, and that's really interesting. It's hard to say, and I would love to. And then ultimately, I don't know, and I can't wait to find out. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, I'm so curious, but.
Yeah, who knows how much they're going to show that, and I feel like no matter how much they show, it won't be enough for me, because Order 66 has always been one of the most interesting parts of Star Wars, and I think that's true for a lot of people, because a lot of the stories have come out of Order 66, Hal Kanan's whole thing, and then the whole video game, the Fallen Order. I think that's all Order 66 too, and so that all that stuff is there.
They show Kanan, hey?
Yeah, they show Kanan. That's
the opening scene there. They show him with his master there as like a child, he's like a youngling there.
Yeah,
which is cool.
Really cool. A nice nod to.
Yeah,
to
it was
Rebels.
really cool.
Yeah, really like that too.
Yeah, I'm curious, with the whole Order 66 thing with Ahsoka. I'm like, is she considered a Jedi to the clones? Is that how they're going to skirt around that a little bit? I don't know, but maybe she's not. Maybe that's going to, we'll see. But
because because she's not there with the council, she's just a advisor.
So
that would be an interesting. That would be I don't know. I don't think that was. That's not a very interesting way around it, I think.
Yeah, I want to see something more like that. Yeah, I want to see more explanation.
Rumor has it that the actual Order 66 will take with Anakin or with Ahsoka and Rex is going to take place on their way back from Mandalore, on the Star Destroyer, on the Venator.
Okay.
I don't know if that's true. I'm just saying that's a kind of a rumor I've heard, and that's based a little bit on some of the things we've seen from the trailers. But I don't know if that's more or less interesting. I feel like that's less interesting than having it done on Mandalore. But
I guess we'll just have to wait it out and see how they do it. But
that'd be really cool.
I can't wait to see it though.
So they get to the end of this hallway, and there's this the music swells and the door opens, and this is probably when did you cry at this moment? Was this the moment you cried?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I did.
And so they reveal that the 501st, or that some members of the 501st, I said, as soon as they heard you're back, the boys got to work, and then they had painted their helmet with the orange markings.
You talking about it right now is bringing tears.
Oh my God, you're a baby.
I know. Do you know how bad I want one of those clone trooper helmets now?
Oh, so cool.
So bad.
So I didn't cry, but I got very close to crying at this moment.
Yeah.
Trying to be like, oh, I'm too good to cry, because I'll cry at shit all the time. But that didn't get me, but it was very close. It was very emotional.
It got me.
Even the second time I watched it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they're talking about this whole thing, and she's like very touched, and and then Anakin's gonna be like, hey, he's like, I got one more surprise, right? And just as she's about to open this box that he has, the sirens go off, the alarm, which I've always liked that Star Wars alarm, that like slow, it's just a cool sound. I don't whatever. Anyway. And then Obi-Wan rushes to the door, and they're like, we're about to jump to hyperspace. And then there's this whole scene where they're like, oh, cool, the attack on Mandalore has been approved. He's like, no.
Yeah.
He's like, no, the Separatists have launched an attack on Coruscant. We're jumping to protect the capital, essentially. And this is when Ahsoka gets all pissy, and like. So I have like a little bit of two minds on this, because Obi-Wan makes a good point. He's like, Ahsoka, you have to understand this is a pivotal moment in the Clone Wars, right?
Right.
There's a battle over top of the capital, right? We need to, like, that's important, right? And it is. I think that's totally fair. That's totally important, right? But I also get Ahsoka's point where she's saying, like, this isn't really about the people of Coruscant. It's about the Chancellor. Right. And Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan's like, that's not fair. And he's like, I wasn't.
She just fires at him. She's like, no, the people don't need you. The Chancellor needs you. Like, I know. Yeah.
And like, does that ring true? Like for Obi-Wan, like, how attached is he to the Chancellor? I feel like he's never been
not as much, because the whole Jedi Council don't trust him at this point.
Well, yeah, with his
technically,
no, and rightfully so.
Yeah, because it's they're basically, they have Anakin kind of spying on him and everything, right? So yeah, like, they don't trust him at all at this point. Anakin's the only one who really gives a shit about the Chancellor at this point.
Right. So it feels like, to me, that line feels a little forced, right? It's like, oh, let's remind everyone that the Chancellor's really Palpatine. Right. Like, is the Sith Lord, all that stuff. It doesn't feel true to Ahsoka or Obi-Wan specifically, like, because I don't know how much Ahsoka really gives a shit about the Chancellor either. Like, that one's a bit weird, like a little outside of things for me. That's fine. I
think it's just more, she's pissed about the politics side of it again. Like, she's like, I need help, and this mission is more important, or is just as important, kind of thing. Right. But you're going with the political route.
And is it just as important? Like, I guess that's the question. And they're like, yeah, Maul's important. Right.
Maul's definitely important. Yeah. And you'd think that would be, especially with Obi-Wan. But and then what was I going to say? It also, because she just said, like, this is why the people have lost faith in you, which kind of, the only reason, not the only reason, but it brings it back to that last shitty arc, and us seeing the regular, quote unquote, regular people not believing in the Jedi.
Right. But when the regular people,
it ties in that that old arc.
Yeah. But wouldn't the regular people of Coruscant care that the Jedi jumped to their rescue?
Oh, for sure. They would care. But it's just.
But there's more than just the core worlds, right? And there's more than just the top level of Coruscant that matters, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately,
she's bringing it back where it's exactly, where it's not just all about Coruscant.
Does 1313 even know that this is happening? Like, do they even know that there's a battle going on? They probably don't, Yeah. So.
Where it's just like, not that they're playing favorites, but it's like they're showing that, like, certain places are more important than others. Yeah. So, Coruscant is more important than Mandalore.
Right. But, well, and I think they also make a good point here. And we didn't mention this at the earlier briefing scene, but Obi-Wan's like, hey, by the way, there's treaties in place that are at least 100 years old, right? About not for the Republic to not kind of interfere with the Mandalorian affairs, right?
Right. Well, because they're neutral also, so they're not supposed to, because it has nothing to do with, like, the Separatists right now. Yeah. So, he has that kind of hindrance on him too, being like, he's like, we can't really interfere because it's not the Separatists. It's just Maul and Mandalore's fighting among themselves. So it's kind of another reason why they're not supposed to get involved. But
I think it's a good point. And then so they're saying, like, so to just be like, go fly in willy-nilly would be kind of irresponsible if you're really thinking about it. Right. And I know it's like the politics of it all, but, like, because it is extremely irresponsible. What they do here is extremely irresponsible. And ultimately, by the way, for the record, dooms Mandalore to the purge, or whatever they call it. Because bringing the Republic here and then putting in Bo, presumably as in some sort of leadership role, to only be removed by Gar Sax, and Gar ultimately takes over as like the figurehead leader of Mandalore during the Republic era, right?
Yes.
Is all because of this action, right? And if they had actually played the politics and didn't get involved here, they A, don't fall into Maul's trap, right? And B, don't break these accords that might protect Mandalore from the Empire, at least for a shorter, at least for a little bit longer. They all probably would have come anyway, but you know what I mean?
If Maul was there, they definitely would have come regardless, but...
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I'm not saying it's the perfect answer. I'm just saying it's...
No, I understand. Yeah.
Okay, so... we skip forward here. Where are we? Okay, so the plan here, then they're like, okay, so we have to jump to Coruscant. That has to happen. And Anakin's like, okay, that's fine. Then I'll just send half the 501st with Ahsoka. And Obi-Wan's like, oh, yeah, I wish I could do that, but rules are she's not a part of the Jedi Council, so she can't do that. She's not a part of the GAR.
I know. And didn't it almost feel like a little bit of a, well, Ahsoka's not part of this anymore?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
It was like she left.
Well, a little bit, kind of. And then, she's not a part of the Grand Army of the Republic. And they're like, okay, fine.
Like, she's not in our club anymore.
Yeah. So he's like, okay, cool, fine. We'll promote Rex to commander. And by the way, it's kind of crazy that he went through the entire war as a captain and never got promoted to commander. But I guess Ahsoka was there for most of the time, so they never needed another. I don't know. Like, who was the commander under Anakin when Ahsoka left? Was there one? We don't know. Probably not. There probably wasn't even one. That seems like it's like Rex has been like waiting for that promotion for his like entire career and like never got it until like the very end.
Yeah.
So and it's like it's offhanded too. Like, yeah, we'll just promote Rex and Ahsoka will go as an advisor. He's like, okay. And I
did like how much Anakin was on Ahsoka's side during this. Like, he's really trying to help her, right? Like,
and I really like. This is such a nice little nod to like Ahsoka and how she thinks of things, because she says, "Yeah, I'll do it, but only if Obi-Wan agrees."
Right. Yeah.
And he's like, "Okay, fine." And then he's like, "But good. May the Force be with you. And one more thing, I've killed him before. He doesn't tend to stay dead. So try to capture him instead."
Right.
Which I think is such a cool line, right?
As he's walking away, it was so funny. Yeah. I loved it. That was one of my favorite lines out of the whole.
Because you need to remind us, hey, by the way. They've already had a whole kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's important. And by the way, ultimately he's the one who kills him at the end anyway. So
yeah.
Do you think he thinks about that at the time on Tatooine? He's like, man, we sent Ahsoka to deal with this whole thing, and she did shit all.
Yeah, probably not, but who knows?
Yeah. Anyway, so the next thing is. Right before we cut to the whole battle sequence is she gets to open the box that Anakin had, and in it is her lightsabers.
Yes.
And by the way, during this scene is the Yoda theme, which has been used many times throughout Star Wars, and it's often being used when some sort of Jedi Master or some like teacher of some kind is giving advice and speaking to their like pupil. So really makes really kind of ties that all together. And then she lights them up, and he says like I kept them in great condition, even improved them a little bit, and they're blue. And that's when he says that, and she's like, she gives him like a stink eye, like, oh, okay, I actually prefer green, but okay, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
And then they give a whole thing about like about luck, and she says thank you for the support, and how he's like, you good luck, you're gonna need it, and she says, well, Master Kenobi always said there's no such thing as luck, and he's like, well, good thing I taught you better than that. And then there's this little good luck line at the end, and then a little like over the shoulder smile and nod. And then that's the last time they see each other until she tries to kill him.
It's heartbreaking.
What do you make of this last kind of goodbye?
I thought it was really good. I thought it was really well done. The only thing I would have liked him to call her Snips one last time, but
yeah, maybe, I don't know. She's kind of grown out of the whole
But it probably would have just made me
thing.
cry again. So But
I thought it was great. I think it was.
I thought it was great though.
You could say it's a little melancholy, like it's a little like overly dramatic. You could say, but especially because it's in retrospect to knowing kind of how things all line up, and it's easy to put a scene together like this.
I didn't find it too over dramatic. I kind of like, obviously, him giving her the lightsabers. That's,
yeah,
great. But I didn't find it to be like too heart wrenching or too, it was just like subtle enough. Like it felt very like normal. Like that would be a normal interaction between the two of them.
Yeah, and I think the writing is really good. I just think that the music, it's like it has this big swell and all this
for
stuff.
Sure.
And
you have
normal,
to,
I get that, but in a normal, like if assuming this had come out chronologically in the timeline, right? They don't know necessarily that this is the last time that they see each other. Would they have played it the same? Maybe not.
Yeah.
But because they know where it is and how it, will be seen in it with the legacy and all that kind of stuff, they write it in a specific way and they give it a little bit of melodrama. And Star Wars is a space opera, so you can't really fault it for that. I think that would be, you could say, that they maybe even held back a little bit. That just my one little thought on that is just that they give it a little bit, they punch it up a bit to make it land a little bit more, to kind of on the heartstrings, tug on the heartstrings a bit more. And I think it's effective.
Yeah, that's true. I think they did it just enough, but I think they easily could have done it way more and they didn't. And I appreciate that. But
So next scene, we cut immediately to them jumping to hyperspace, or jumping out of hyperspace over the sea, over Mandalore, right? And the music's really cool here. And we see that they got 3 Venator class Star Destroyers, so that's like it's a pretty good amount of. So I guess there's 6 Star Destroyers in a Legion in the 501st, so they divided it up. They got 3, which is pretty generous, I feel like, by Anakin.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And they've got a full platoon of clones and the drop ships with walkers. The walkers are weird because like that city doesn't really seem like it's built for walkers.
Definitely not.
So I thought that was interesting, but it's always fun to see those walkers get blown up out of the sky as they're like coming in. I think that's always cool.
Oh, for sure.
So
yeah, Mandalore is definitely not like a ground battle.
That's why they have that's why they have jetpacks.
That's what I mean. Like they don't build it to be a ground battle place. It's all in the air, right? Because that's their advantage.
Their planet is mostly destroyed. Like it's kind of a wasteland, and their cities are kind of like bubble cities. So it's not. It's really not that, like, there's not gonna be a lot of fighting out on the ground. Which is why if you actually go back and you watch the Rebels episodes that take place on Mandalore, they look pretty shitty. Like they look bad from a visual standpoint because it's basically white sand everywhere. So it looks like they didn't even bother to put down like texture for the ground. Like the exterior of Mandalore is not the most interesting place, and I'm glad we don't spend almost any time there, just in the air above it. And it like because I don't know how much time we've been recording here, almost an hour already, but basically, just to kind of keep things from getting too long. But there's a really amazing action sequence here as they're coming down. And the couple things I want to highlight are there's the scene, which I talked about already, before kind of the action starts with Prime Minister Almec. He's all being all huffy puffy about what is the meaning of all this, And
right.
So
because he sees Republic ships, so he's just like, what the fuck, like
what is the meaning of this invasion? There's this really cool line which I like, which is when she's like, Mistress Bo-Katan, aligning with the Republic will make you seen as an enemy of the people, which I think is ultimately a very important line, because if that's ultimately how they see her and this kind of liberation doesn't go the way that they plan, then this it may have all backfired this, on Bo-Katan, right? So
for sure, it's a super super dangerous play.
Yeah, and she's like, I'm okay with that. And Ahsoka's like, oh, you're really nothing like your sister, right? Which is such a cool line. Then we cut to Gar Saxon, in the throne room with Almec, and I think this is such a short scene, but I think it's really cool. And he's like, basically, we haven't had a battle like this in a long time. Are you ready? Which I think is more of like a line to like throw us off the scent that this is a kind of a trap, because maybe he doesn't know it's a trap, and only Almec does, and Maul does. It's unclear, I think, because
I would assume Saxon knows, because he's kind of Maul's like right hand man.
I don't know, because like you think you cut to later in the episode where Saxon's like, they've already taken the docks, and they're, we're facing, tougher opposition than expected. And he's like, okay, fall back to the Undercity. And he's like, okay, got it. And then he goes and follows those orders. And again, that's maybe just to throw us off, like the viewer. So
maybe
we're not catching on as quick. But if he knew about all those things, I don't think he would have done it that way. Like, why would he need to be ordered to do the thing he already knew he had to do?
True.
So anyway, there's this landing sequence where they're under attack by these like anti-air missiles, and then some Mandalorians in red armor with their jetpacks. And this is so cool because they open the doors of the drop ships, and then we have clones with jetpacks, which is always fun. Then you have Mandalorians with jetpacks, which is always super cool looking. And then you have this whole like 45-degree angle kind of down towards the planet thing where they're all racing to get to the ground, right? Because they're trying to soften up, I guess, the landing zone. And so there's this moment where like they open the back door, and Bo-Katan and her guys are like, we're out of here. And I guess there was one quick line. Ursa Wren makes a quick cameo. She's basically useless. She's like, yeah, we don't know if he's still here. and then is gone.
Well, whatever.
It's fine. It's cool to see Ursa Wren. So there's this cool scene where they drop out of the ship out of the back, and then the fighting begins. And Rex looks at Ahsoka and is like, I didn't think to bring you a jetpack. And she's like, it's okay, I don't need one. And there's this, oh God, it's so cool. This smile, this smirk on Rex's face. It's half a second, blink and you'll miss it. Little smile on Rex's face. And he's like, some things never change, basically, like I'll race you to the bottom. And then this basically the coolest action scene of the episode.
This is the Ahsoka I've been wanting to fucking see this whole season. This is
you had 4 episodes of her not doing any of that.
I know, and this whole scene made up for it. Like I'm not mad anymore because this is all I wanted to see. Like she's amazing.
Did you feel it was Disney Plus at all? I noticed how she doesn't decapitate any Mandalorians. She only just like taps them on the arm with her lightsabers.
Yeah, she I mean, she's still like slashing their jetpacks, so they're gonna go flailing into the earth.
Yes, that's true.
I didn't think it was too Disney Plus. I still loved it. Like I thought she looked so cool, and
I just thought about when she jumps onto a ship with a bunch of Mandalorians on it, and she's got 2 lightsabers, and there's no death blows in any of those interactions. She like kicks 2 people in the chest, and they're wearing armor, and then she kicks a guy out of a door, and he's got a jetpack. So it's like,
but I think she's slashing those jetpacks, so
that's pretty cool. I'm not gonna nitpick too much. It is very cool action scene. And she's like, so she's going like ship to ship, and she like runs along one of the Mandalorian ships at one point, and that's pretty cool. And then she jumps to this drop ship that's got that's like going down and like in flames, and this clone pilot can't get out of his cockpit, and he's like, help me. And then she comes, she opens the thing, and he's like, thanks, Commander, which I think is such a cool little like just quick little thing. He's out of the, hey, thanks, and then he's out the thing.
She just stabs the side of the plane and then like opens up his hatch so he can get out.
That's how things work with lightsabers. You just stab stuff and then it works.
Oh, I just slash it open. Yeah. I loved her her landing there too, where she like, because she's going pretty fucking fast.
Yeah,
like,
she's at terminal velocity basically.
Yeah, she's on that on a ship that's
crashing.
Crashing. Yeah, but I love that how she stops herself with her lightsabers there, like just digs them into the ground as she lands on that platform.
Oh, and then
with
there's
all
an
the
explosion
there.
in the background. It's the coolest thing.
It's awesome.
It's
like
fucking awesome. Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, this is what I wanted. Like, this is all I wanted to see, is just Ahsoka in her glory with her lightsabers just being unreal.
Yeah, and by the way, the music here is great again. There's just I just want to highlight all the times I noticed the music, and this is another time that I thought the music was really, really good. And I don't know for sure if this is a Star Wars like classic score theme, but it's definitely a great piece, even if it's like a Kevin Kinner like original. It's very, very, very good. So yeah, she lands, and then she does this kind of like sword dance thing, and it's really fucking cool. And then
she's just deflecting everything that they're shooting at her. Like, it just doesn't matter.
And Rex comes down, and he's like, I beat you. And he's like, some things never change. And it's like it's like, oh, that's so cool. So much fun. I just like, again, there's just like small little like one line here or there that really kind of like say so much, speak so much to their history that
Yeah.
It almost doesn't need to be said, but when it is said, you just really feel the honesty and like and like history of those lines like
Yeah.
really come through. Feels really good.
There's just all these little moments between like our favorite characters, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's just making you can tell the series is tying up, and with all these little kind of nods here and
Mm-hmm.
there, and it's one of my like favorite things about this episode too, is
And
all those little moments.
and those little moments are so great because and they're beyond just the Anakin and Obi-Wan stuff, which is because they are now off the series, that they're done. But there's still 3 episodes to go, so there's still a lot of times you see this stuff in like series finales, like you'll get like one cool line, like, oh man, that's really cool, but that's like the last time you'll ever see them. There's still 3 more episodes, and we're still of us like hanging out with Ahsoka and Rex and having to deal with the fallout of Order 66 and everything else. That's going to be really interesting. And then, so this isn't the last time we get this stuff, although it might be the last time we get it in this kind of like fun kind of flowery.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is, right? Like this might be the last time they go into this kind of battle together. This is the last time, like, that we're going to see some of these interactions, because they're going to change drastically pretty soon.
And by the way, the Siege of Mandalore, this is the quote-unquote Siege of Mandalore that they reference in Rebels.
Right.
Rex references it, and we had never seen that battle before. He references the Siege of Christophsis and the Siege of Mandalore, or the Battle of Christophsis and the Siege of Mandalore, even though I think there's 2 battles at Christophsis. So we were like, ooh, that's cool. We never, what's that? And then so we get to see it, and it turns out it is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's awesome! Yeah.
So then we.
How can it not be though? If you have like one group of Mandalorians fighting another group of Mandalorians, it's obviously going to be so cool.
Yeah. Plus, you have the clones who are derivatives of like the Mandalorian armor, and like like there's this whole like lineage that it like is across there. It's visually like it's just candy for your eyes.
Especially when half the Mandalorians have helmets that look like Darth Maul's head.
Right.
So
and
it's so cool.
Yeah. And so if you think of the Mandalorian, the show, right, there's the that woman Mandalorian who is, I think, called the Armorer or something like that.
Right. And she's got those
little horns
on her helmet.
The theory is, and I don't know, we don't know for sure if that's the case, but one of the theories is that she was a member of Death Watch at one point. And I think that would have been a really, like, if that's true, I think that's just like a small little detail that's like a really cool little thing. We don't know for sure, but I in my head canon, that's the case. I think that's
it is cool. Yeah, I know. I saw that too, and I was like, oh, okay, like that's neat. That's something I didn't put together myself, right? So I was like, yeah, that'll be cool. We'll see, but
I don't know if we'll ever see that, because I think she's dead. I believe.
I don't think she's dead.
Isn't she dead? Isn't she? Wait, I don't remember.
No,
now. She
kicked ass.
She kicks ass with those hammers. And then so I don't know if she's dead. I don't remember now.
It's one of those, hey, what's the rule? If you don't see them die, they're not actually dead.
That's rule. That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Even though we did see Maul die, he still wasn't dead. So
we saw him get cut in half. Not
who
necessarily.
Who doesn't die from getting cut in half?
Darth Maul.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Okay, so we then cut to Saxon, and he's falling back. Basically, this little moment's really cool because you cut to showing the actual city. We rarely get to spend time in Mandalorian cities, and they have really cool visual design of a lot of layers and verticality to them.
Yeah.
And these big walkways, and they're again, it just looks really, really pretty. Just everything they've done, a lot of light blues and yellows, and then you have these black and red armor. It just being contrasted by the oranges.
Yeah, the contrast
whites.
Is really cool.
Yeah, of the clones. So it's just a really cool looking scene, and the clones are kind of kicking ass, and every time the clones are kicking ass, I'm excited. So it's cool, great, love this. And Saxon's we're facing tougher opposition, we're gonna fall back, and then they fall back to the Undercity.
Yeah.
And then there's this brief moment where Bo-Katan, Rex, and Ahsoka are kind of talking. It's not a very long scene, but I think it's an important one because Bo is saying we don't have the numbers to sustain a long siege. Okay, that's important to know. It's just a small little bit of information that may come important later. And then Rex, there's this, where Ahsoka's okay, I want you to go reinforce the docks because I don't want anyone escaping, right? While we search for Maul, right? Mm-hmm. And then Rex is well, if he's here, otherwise this all plays into his hands, which I don't really get that line. I don't really understand it. It doesn't I've tried to put myself in the frame of mind of Maul and or of Rex and as a military. I don't. Can you maybe help me here, because I don't understand where that line would come from. How does taking the city play into Maul's hands if he's not there?
Oh, if he's not there. Yeah, I'm not too sure, unless like Rex just means it from a point of view of like
From like political
Maul.
standpoint, like
Well,
they
maybe
broke
Maul
these
just wants them
treaties
to
for nothing, kind of thing.
Or maybe it's something along the lines of like that. True, it might be easier to take over Mandalore once those treaties are kind of broken, and or it's also that like, yeah, let them fight amongst themselves, and hopefully my guys still win, and then it's easier for me once they battle it out, kill off a
Right.
bunch of these these opposing Mandalorians, right? This splinters group from Death Watch. Let Death Watch take care of it. Then when I come back, I can just pick up the pieces.
Oh, I think yeah. That's a great point. So basically, what he's saying is, if he's not here and he tricked us into making this big play, this is the last big play that these owl people have.
Yeah,
right.
That we can make. Yeah,
exactly. If we don't succeed here and he's not here, there's no other there's no more plays to make. That's it. We've kind of used up everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Marcos is in the chat today. Marcos asking if I'm in a new room. No, this is just my Star Wars room, because I give up the tower for people when I'm using this, so they can use the TV and play video games and Animal Crossing or whatever the heck they're doing. So if you're watching live and you see me with the bookshelf behind.
Oh yeah, your different background. Yeah.
A little different.
Yeah.
Okay, so where were we? So we have Saxon falling back. We have this brief scene with Rex. Then we get this call from Captain Vaughn, who I don't know if we've ever met Captain Vaughn before. He might have not even been a captain until very recently when Rex was promoted. So Captain Vaughn, and he's at the Undercity. So we cut, just do a quick wipe transition to Ahsoka meeting up with Captain Vaughn. And just the visual look of these clones with the orange masks, helmets is super cool to me. Like, they all look really badass here, and they to Vaughn.
Look so cool.
And Vaughn looks particularly badass because he's got the blue on his like chest plate, right?
Yeah.
But then he's got the orange on his helmet, and he's got the same whole setup as Captain Cody does, right? With like the antenna on the shoulder and like the visor over the eye thing. It's just such a cool look. I think Captain Cody has one of the cooler clone armor sets out of any.
Yeah,
of
I
the,
know how much you love Cody.
I just think he looks cool.
I know.
And I've always thought that Rex's thing was like a little bit over the top. Like he's got like his helmet's just too busy. Like there's like little like marks on the side of his head for like, I guess, what are those kills? Because how many are those kill? Like, because they can't be kills because he's killed how many droids at this point? Like that doesn't make any sense. Right?
Yeah, I'm not too sure whether it's like battles won or.
Yeah, we don't know, but just like there's a lot happening on Rex's armor. He's got like the one pauldron and like the skirts thing, and there's a lot happening. I just like Cody's a little bit sleeker, cooler look, more tactical, Yeah. Anyway, so Captain Vaughn, and they're saying, "Hey, I just like the dialogue. I think they always come up with like really good clone dialogue, especially for ones we've never really met before. The more like, the fresher clones, the ones who haven't been around long as Echo and Fives and all them, right? Who have a bit more personality, right? So these more like fresh clones are just more like down to business. He's like, well, we engaged one of the leadership, Goss Saxon, and then they escaped into these tunnels, and he's like, what are these tunnels? And he has this whole thing is like about their drainage, yada yada yada. And he's like, where do they go? Unknown, sir. Like all that stuff is just very clean and crisp and like very true to clone form for me.
Right. It's a little less like casual as some of the other ones that we know a little bit better are. But
and I also like
what do they call them? Shinies.
Yeah, shinies.
Yeah.
Well, he wouldn't be a shiny because
because he's seen battle.
He's seen battle because he's obviously a captain at this point. But like, yes, I and obviously if they have the painted orange, they know who Ahsoka is, and that means they've been around for a while and all that stuff. I think that I also, which I didn't note until just now, but Ahsoka just slips back into her like military role really quickly, right? With them, it's like, I'm in charge. Tell me, give me a sit rep, all this kind of stuff, like just very natural to her,
Yeah.
We cut to Bo-Katan, who's taking the throne room. It's that Mando on Mando fighting is always a lot of fun to me.
Yeah, it's so good.
So we have Mando v Mando stuff, and we get a jetpack punch uppercut move, which is so badass. Like she, it almost looks like this old, like grizzly old man in Prime Minister Almec is going to have like the best of her because she uses her like grappling hook, which we've seen a bunch of times used by the Mandalorian in the Mandalorian, right?
Yeah.
And it like to like very effective degrees, but she uses it here. It does not work.
Yeah.
She gets like pulled forward. As I don't know if Rook is in the room at this time. I guess it's important to mention. I think maybe Rook is actually down in the Undercity. I'm not sure for sure, but Rook is another character that I guess we meet in Son of Dathomir in the comic books that we've never seen on the show until now.
It's the lady Mando, right?
Yeah, the girl Mando.
Yeah. She's like basically Gar Saxon's like right hand throughout that graphic novel too. Yeah.
And she's played by Vanessa Marshall, which is I don't know. She may only have like 2 lines in this entire episode, if any at all.
Yeah, it's not many.
Yeah, like I honestly don't remember hearing her speak, but she plays Hera on in Rebels as well.
Oh, so, really? Okay, cool.
Yeah, she's actually a very like established voice actress. Like she's in Mass Effect and Justice League and Star Wars and Metal Gear, and she's Harley Quinn in a couple episodes, it looks like, of the Harley Quinn TV. She's Harley Quinn in the Harley Quinn TV series, which I've been meaning to watch actually for a while. She's Wonder Woman in Superman the Red Sun. She's a very, very long time veteran voice actress, and obviously like familiar with Lucasfilm, been involved with them for a long time. Always like seeing her. She plays Rook Cast in this, so that's pretty cool. She might die in the next episode for all I know, but
yeah.
Anyway, I don't know if she's here. It doesn't matter. If she's down, she might be down on the Undercity in the next scene. But there's this Mando on Mando stuff. I really actually like Prime Minister Almec's like armor. Like he's got this like.
Oh, I don't.
You don't? You think it's lame?
I think it's so like. Oh, I hate it. I just feel like he's one of those like, when you see it's like battles where it's like kings and they always depict them where they have this like fancy armor that's like
very elaborate.
They don't do anything. Yeah, it's always super elaborate. It's like, oh, I need to make it like set myself apart and look because I still want to look like.
Yeah, but I like that little like. That rope thing he's got on his shoulder. I think that's a cool thing. I think that looks cool.
I mean, yeah, like it looks high end and it does look good for sure. But I just like, I don't know. I hate the idea of these like leaders having armor that needs to look like fancier. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's like, I guess it's like it's supposed to, he's the prime minister, so he has to look like he's in charge, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
just makes him look like more of a target. It's like, okay, go after the fancy man.
I guess.
That's what I would do.
But like I don't know if we've seen him with armor before anyway. So
yeah,
they've like their whole thing before was like, oh, we're pacifists, yada yada yada. So he's just a figurehead, and so he's got his own armor, which is cool.
His armor might be more like ceremonial than like actually like
absolutely
fair.
So there's this brief fight scene, and then. I didn't like the line of, it's just like I think it's from earlier. It's just like our Lord predicted. I thought that was really lame, but because calling anyone your Lord is really dumb. But
yeah.
So anyway, at this point, Bo-Katan finds out that it's a trap, and he's like, well, we wanted you to bring the Jedi here. You just brought the wrong one, right?
Right. Yeah, because he wanted Obi-Wan.
Yeah, and she's like, and then there's this whole thing where she's trying to like get a hold of her, and they're wearing these like weird like head-mounted communicator things, which I don't think we've ever seen before. They're kind of weird. I don't know why all the other communicators have been on the wrist.
Oh yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's just because Mandalorians use their wrists for all the other shit. They have all their other gadgets in there, maybe. Or I don't know. It's a way to like that they can still talk to the clones. I'm not too sure.
I don't know. It was just I had a friend watch it for a second. Like, what are they wearing in their head? I'm like, I don't know. I think it's a communicator. Anyway, so they're trying to get a hold of her. She can't. She's too far under the city, like too far out of like radio signal range or something.
Because she's in those tunnels. So
you can send you can send holograms across the galaxy, but you can't get a radio signal down into the basement. So and so we cut to this Undercity scene where they walk into into these tunnels and they turn all their flashlights on. I think that looks really cool, and just very practical having the flashlights mounted on the helmets already.
Oh, of course.
And then this music here is very like eerie. It's very much got like a horror movie theme to it. And like the way it's shot is very horror-esque.
It is, yeah. You kind of just, you hear everyone getting picked off kind of like one by one. I really like that. I thought it was, really cool.
Some really nice strings here that they're using in the music. And then so we kind of cut away and we kind of see like these Mandalorians. And I think that's Rook there kind of setting this trap for them. And at one point, someone launches a missile. Ahsoka deflects it and then gets knocked out. But then for some reason, all the clones just separate immediately.
They just take off like without her.
And exactly. And they're like, wait. And then but before she can get to any of them, they're all dead. Which is like, no,
it seems like they're all, they all like chase after where that missile came from, right? And then they're all going down different tunnels because they see different Mandos that they're going to try and go after. Then one by one, you hear those like, what is that called? Those cries?
The
Wilhelm
scream? Wilhelm scream?
Yeah.
I don't know if they're all Wilhelm screams, but there's definitely at least one in there. So all the clones die. She finds Vaughn in the middle of this like little like circle area, and he's like apologizing as he's dying and calls her commander, and it's really nice kind of like sad moment. Even though Vaughn, we barely knew ye. And then the music gets really cool again because Maul emerges out of the darkness, and it's the same music that is played when he emerges from the darkness in the first time we ever see him in episode 1 as a hologram. So that's really, really freaking cool that they use that music cue there. And then you get the great Sam Witwer line, which is like, I was hoping for Kenobi. Why are you here? And it's like just anger and like vicious hatred for Kenobi, and just having your plan executed so perfectly, only for the wrong Jedi to be the wrong one Jedi to catch, show up.
Like you can tell he's just pissed. I think it's also too where he's like, it's a bit like his ego's hurt a little bit. Like Kenobi doesn't have time for him. So it's like
that's funny.
He's just like extra pissed because he's just like all he wants is Kenobi to like come after him again, but Kenobi is too busy doing other more important things. But
it's like they're supposed to like he's like I wanted a he's like so you're supposed to be my nemesis, and you're not even supposed to, you're not even nemesis singing with me.
You sent the Padawan.
Okay, so that's the whole episode. And before my computer dies, because I forgot to plug it in, we're gonna wrap things up. So, final thoughts on this episode. I think it's amazing. It's one of the we said this off the top. It's one of the best episodes of Clone Wars I've ever seen. Its use of the actual Star Wars music is basically perfect. And I have basically zero complaints, as you heard there, for this entire episode.
Yeah. Oh, that might be a first.
Well, I said basically zero. There were still a couple.
There's a couple
nitpicks in there, but I think it's just so good. And if what this guy on Twitter is saying, let me go find his thing again. Gianni is saying that next week is even better. Bring it on.
We'll see.
Even better. Great. Sweet.
I don't understand. I don't see how, but I guess we'll see. Yeah.
I'll take your word for it, dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm excited though. If that's gonna be better, then I can't wait.
Yeah. I am stoked, and it's Monday, 5 days away.
Yeah,
5 days away. I might have to stay up late Thursday night or something to watch it. I don't know.
Usually it's uploaded by like 2 or 3.
Yeah, 2 a.m., which is a little late, but it's fine. We're in the final stretch. 3 episodes left. It's melancholy, but I'm super stoked about these next couple episodes. Okay,
me too.
So again, you can always follow us on Twitter at Tower Babblecast, Facebook.com/Tower Babblecast. That's BABBLE. Find all the things we do at towerbabblepodcast.com, and you can help support the show at patreon.com/towerbabblecast as well. If you have any comments about anything Star Wars The Clone Wars, please send them into towerbabblepodcast@gmail.com, and we'll be back next week with even more Star Wars and possibly even a better episode to talk about, but seems unlikely. We'll figure it out then. Bye.
Bye.